Welcome back to In Depth with Academia. I'm Richard Price, CEO of academia.edu, and today we've got a one to talk through. It's a paper titled Beyond Genes, DNA Editing in Subtle Bodies, CRISPR and Infusion Corridors, authored by David G. Little. And hey, let's remember up front, I'm here to represent the discussion neutrally, not to endorse or refute the paper's arguments. My goal is to bring you the ideas and questions at stake. Then you decide what feels meaningful to you. So, what's the core question this paper's wrestling with? Really, it's riffing on something, let's say, kind of foundational in biology. Are genes the end of the story, or is there more? David G. Little picks up on recent critiques of neo-Darwinism, like Professor Dennis Noble, who says biology needs to, quote, go beyond genes and runs with it. The question here is, can we expand our view of biology to include not just molecular DNA editing like CRISPR, but also, wait for it, subtle consciousness-related forms of DNA transformation that come from yogic and astral traditions? I know, this is some wild stuff. You might be thinking, Richard, what's that got to do with me? Why care? Well, if the story of life is bigger than just gene sequences, if consciousness, experience, even traditions play a role in shaping us, maybe there are new ways to think about health, inheritance, and even personal growth. It's about opening doors, or, as the paper says, corridors. Now, diving into the meat of Little's argument, the paper proposes what he calls a dual framework for biology, a sort of outer corridor and inner corridor. The outer one is straightforward. It's all about CRISPR and genomic editing. We've all heard about CRISPR, right? That snipping tool for DNA, making precise changes to genetic material. Hugely exciting for medicine, agriculture, all kinds of stuff. But here's where things get truly unusual. The inner corridor is about what Little calls infusion-based transformations in subtle DNA, inspired by yogic and astral traditions. So, what does that even mean? Well, he draws on records of infusion events, where practitioners experience transmission of luminous fluids, colored particles, or lineage capsules. The idea is that these experiences somehow possibly alter subtle DNA structures mediated by consciousness. The testimonies, according to Little, are archived in scrolls and ceremonial records. It's a leap from the lab to the meditation cushion. And yeah, this is where I want to be super clear. I'm representing the framework, not endorsing it. But I think the way Little positions it is interesting. He's less about proving one thing right or wrong, and more about expanding the map of biology, moving from reductionism to a sort of holistic or integrative approach. In his words, he wants to bridge scientific rigor with experiential witness. So both the precise world of CRISPR and the fuzzy personal world of yoga transmission have a voice at the table. Let me pause here for a second. Have you ever heard someone say meditation or spiritual experience changed them on a fundamental level and kind of wondered what that really means? I remember a friend once told me after a yoga retreat, she felt like her wiring was completely different. It's probably just a metaphor, but hey, what if there's more to the metaphor than we give credit? Or maybe not, who knows? That's the kind of open question this paper raises. Moving on, the paper's big claim is that these two corridors, CRISPR for physical DNA, infusion for subtle DNA, together form a more holistic biology. The hope is that as scientific models grow, we won't ignore centuries of human experience and tradition. Instead, maybe we recognize that what happens in the test tube and what happens in consciousness could, at least in some respects, relate. Now, let's talk practical implications. Does this mean you can meditate your way to a new genome? Probably not, but what it does invite is curiosity. Can modern science find ways to test or at least listen to experiential knowledge? Could there be things our genes can't explain? Things we might learn from traditions outside the lab? Oh, and totally random. But have you ever noticed how DNA diagrams kind of look like spirals of pasta? I always get hungry reading about genetics. Sorry, that's way off topic. Anyway, wrapping up, David G. Little's paper doesn't give us closure. It blows things open. He's inviting readers to explore, to question what counts as evidence, and to imagine a biology that's more like a tapestry than a blueprint. Remember, these are ideas to chew on, not tablets brought down from on high. So as you head off into your own day, maybe ask yourself, how much of who you are comes from genes, and how much from experience or consciousness? What would it mean for science if the answer was both and more? Thanks for joining me on In Depth with Academia. I'm Richard Price, here to keep the conversation alive and always neutral. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and see you next time.